after watching this video, you will be able to master two different types of exchange sacrifice at once. Why is that? Because we see two very crucial patterns of exchange sacrifices in action here. The first one is the so-called passive exchange sacrifice. So the passive exchange sacrifice is quite a simple concept. You don't actively slam your rook into something, but you just keep it where it is and let it be taken by a bishop or a knight. That's sometimes very effective. For example, here there would be no chance to actively trade the rook for the a3 bishop, but you can just keep it there and thus passively sack it. The second concept we see here is the color theme exchange sacrifice. And that's a concept which I see a lot when I studied exchange sacrifices, which means you give up the rook, but therefore you get a huge superiority on one color. That usually happens when you give the rook for a bishop rather than for a knight, because after that your bishop on the other side of the board will be unopposed and you will have a lot of control over the dark squares. And that's great. And often that is a huge compensation, because even though you're in exchange down on one color on the board, you're still the strongest side. Of course, care needs to be taken, and we will see another concept of exchange sacrifices here in action, which is keep the rook of the opponent passive and don't trade your remaining rook if possible. Okay, let's dive into the details, into the concrete play. A strong move by black here is just to take on a4, and white is best advised to immediately grab the rook on b4. Why is that? Because after bishop b4, if we were to take with the a pawn, which is actually good, and I will talk about that later, it's actually good to take either way here. But if we take with the a pawn, white is very happy to trade a pair of rooks. And even though if black recaptures, he's absolutely fine. He's not a lot better here, even though the position looks more appealing to black, to me. But black is not a lot better. But imagine the situation if white had a rook on a2. This rook would be very passive and we would have a rook left which might go to the e file later. This would be much better for black, because white just has a terrible rook and we also have one piece left which can move like a rook. So in general, when you are in exchange down, you want to keep one rook, because then you also have one. The opponent has two, but sometimes the two are not more useful than one. So in this situation, white got to trade the rooks, and that's fine. But black is doing well. He has two passers and there are no open files, so the remaining rook won't be too good. However, if we compare this situation to this one, here black would just be better after something like bishop to a6. This a2 rook is not doing anything, and this is a worse version for white. So let's have a look at the other recapture, which is also fine, but which seems a bit more difficult to play in practice, in my opinion, and I will tell you why. So in this situation, white also takes on a4 with the rook, trying to keep the rook active, and black now wants to bring this knight to c5. However, if white immediately retreats his rook, if we now were to go to c5, then the white knight might challenge our knight, and in such situation we really don't want to trade the knight, because afterwards we do not have anything to really close the c file forever. And I have the feeling that the rooks might become very active in such a situation later. If you trade, the rooks will come to the c file. How to block the c file? Maybe bishop c3, but our bishop is doing nothing there except blocking. So it seems a little passive to me. And in this structure, compared to the structure we had seen before, we have open files, so the rooks have quite some potential and we need to be careful. That's why in practice I would prefer the other way around, because there's just no way that the rooks get open files. However, there is another solution here, which is bring the knight to c7, then to b5 and jump into c3, trying to close the open c file and sit on c3 with the knight in an excellent way. So remember three things. The first one, passive exchange sacrifice. Sometimes you cannot sacrifice in an active way, but you just keep it where it is. Second, don't trade the rooks if you have only one rook left. Your opponent will always have two if you sacrifice the exchange and you want to have this rook left. Third, try to keep the rooks as passive as possible, which means keeping files closed or making sure that you can close the open files with some piece, for example with a knight on c3. Hope that one was instructive to you. If so, please give a like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate that, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.